"Ma'am, do you know your badge has been deactivated?" The security guard at the front desk said it like he was announcing the weather. Bland, apologetic, not his circus. Emily Chen blinked once, then again. The turnstile hadn't clicked. Her little green light didn't flash. She was standing there, reusable coffee mug in one hand, a Ziploc bag of homemade banana bread in the other, while the Monday morning parade of suits flowed around her like she was a lamppost. Gave a dry smile. "Well, I guess that depends on whether Genix Labs has a death wish this week." The guard didn't laugh. She didn't expect him to. It wasn't the first time she'd been invisible. In 7 years, Emily had written code that kept Genix's lights on structured data deals that protected 8-figure research and buried enough firewalls into joint access clauses that their most valuable data asset, Project Helix, was basically Fort Knox in binary form. And yet, to everyone above the 4th floor, she was just data ops, an email signature, a name on pull requests, someone you CC'd at the end of the deal if you remembered. She'd come from QA originally, fought tooth and nail to claw her way out of that beige graveyard of bugs and into something with teeth. Data security was where the real power lived, where details weren't just lines, they were weapons. Emily understood that better than anyone. She wasn't flashy, didn't talk about vision or synergy or any of the other buzzwords the sales guys threw around like cologne. What she did was read, all of it, every script, every comment, every revision, while Nathan Brooks, Genix's new VP of Strategic Operations, was strutting around talking about liquidity events and reclaiming agile dominance. Emily was tucked in the data subfolders of their biggest clients, cloud storage, highlighting key language. Nathan would have needed a flashlight and a CS degree to understand. Project Helix was her crown jewel, a tangled spiderweb of data rights, shared research notes, access triggers, and revenue escalators tied to performance metrics. Only she and the outside counsel had fully mapped. At its peak, it brought in $12 million a quarter. Emily didn't just help build it. She built the security framework from scratch, drafted the key protocol herself, the one no one ever bothered to read, the one that quietly made her the sole key holder of any transfer of Helix's core data. Not IT, not Genix her. She never flaunted it. That wasn't the point. The point was protection of the work, the company, the long game. Seen too many data disasters collapse under hasty and as in clueless VPs, trying to show off with asset dumps. The protocol was her insurance policy, a seatbelt no one thought they needed until the crash. But things had started changing fast when Nathan arrived. First came the vision decks, then the consultants. Suddenly, every hallway was filled with words like sunset, synergize, and lean optimization. Entire departments disappeared. Man fired the facilities team and started outsourcing janitorial to an app. Then he came for data ops. Emily had kept her head down at first, watching Nathan surgically slice the org chart. He spoke at town halls like he was on Shark Tank, talking about asset repositioning and shareholder momentum. People clapped. Emily sat stone-faced. She knew what he was eyeing, knew the spreadsheet he'd waved around last week with a fat red arrow pointing at legacy data helix. She knew what he was planning before he did. That Monday morning, standing outside the turnstile, badge dead and banana bread, sweating in her purse, she finally saw it all for what it was. He hadn't just missed the keys. He had no idea she was the keys. Nathan Brooks walked into Genix like a man who just fired God and planned to run the universe with a whiteboard and a Bluetooth headset. He was tan in that try-hard California way, like he'd been marinated in LinkedIn filters and protein powder. His shoes looked too expensive to walk in. His handshake lasted half a second too long. And his first sentence in the all-hands meeting was, "I didn't come here to make friends. I came to modernize." Someone actually whooped. Emily reached for her Tylenol. Nathan was the new VP of Strategic Operations, which, near as anyone could tell, meant high-functioning chaos monkey with PowerPoint privileges. He'd come in on a wave of boardroom desperation, hired straight off some VC firm that sold pet-tracking NFTs, or whatever garbage Silicon Valley was huffing that quarter. His resume was long on exits and short on context. The man could sell a bicycle to a fish. He couldn't read a contract to save his life. He strutted through departments with a little leather-bound moleskin and a smile like a blunt instrument. Everywhere he went, heads rolled. QA became a skeleton crew in 2 weeks. HR got merged with people optimization. Facilities outsourced to a firm called Mopley. Data, Emily's division, got rebranded as Process Risk. But the worst was what he called the asset cleanse. Printed spreadsheets, like he was staging a coup. Assets, portfolios, patents, data, each labeled with traffic light colors. Helix, the most lucrative and labyrinthine piece of Ginix's intellectual data, was marked bright red. Legacy bloat. Nathan called it operational anchor, fat ripe for trimming. Emily asked for meeting. Got 15 minutes in a glass-walled conference room next to the espresso bar he'd installed. Showed up with a folder of Helix documentation, printed, tabbed, labeled. Nathan didn't even open it. "This isn't the nines," he said, smirking. "We don't need binder queens. We need velocity. I built the security shell for Helix," she replied. Voice clipped. "There's an assignment protocol 4.7b. It was part of the dual joint restructuring when the EU deal collapsed. You can't touch those data without Emily." He didn't raise his voice, just held up a palm like a preacher calming a sheep. "You're obviously passionate, but this thing's bleeding overhead. The board's aligned. We're moving the portfolio to Apex Ventures. 80 million all cash. It's a no-brainer." She stared at him like he'd just offered to auction off his kidneys on eBay. He smiled wider. "Go enjoy your early retirement, or maybe freelance. I hear a lot of you back-office types are doing great on Upwork." Emily stood slowly. He didn't yell, didn't argue, just tapped the folder once. "You might want to read what you're about to sell." And she walked out. That night at her kitchen table, she opened her personal laptop and pulled up the protocol from memory. Paragraph 4.7b of the Helix Security Agreement. All rights, transfers, sublicensing, divestitures, or changes to controlling interest of the Helix core. Data shall be subject to key authentication by the designated custodial key holder, her name on the line, assigned by Genix's then CTO, and countersigned by their overseas partner, Ironlock. Quiet, easily missed by anyone reading fast. The next morning, she typed a one-sentence email to the internal IT team. Subject: Urgent Helix Key Protocol Body. Refer to 4.7b before executing any sale or LOI. Helix Data Portfolio. She BCC'd herself. Hit send. No reply. She wasn't surprised. The next day, her calendar vanished. Her access to the shared drive was revoked. HR blocked her from Slack. A courier delivered a padded envelope with exit documents and a coupon for a career coaching webinar. Emily didn't cry. She went outside, trimmed her hydrangeas, drank a Diet Coke, and watched the boardroom smoke machine rev up for its next quarterly illusion. They just put a price tag on a bomb they didn't know was live, and she was the one holding the trigger. The HR girl couldn't have been more than 25, still wearing her intern enthusiasm, like it hadn't curdled yet. She handed Emily a cardboard box with one of those tight-lipped smiles that said, "I hate this. Not enough to stop it. We've prepared your severance documents," she chirped, as if she were offering a cookie. "There's a toe consultancy clause, just in case we need transition support. It's standard." Emily took the box without blinking. Her mug, her stapler, a ceramic cactus, and a photo of her and her dog that no one ever noticed in the first place. No one asked her what needed to be handed off. No questions about the status of the data audits, open security disputes, or the foreign compliance review she'd been running solo since 2019. Nathan had made it clear he didn't need context, just clean exits. Emily was obsolete, an appendix, her badge deactivated with a quiet beep. Her Outlook account vanished while she was still in the elevator. She walked out of Genix Labs with nothing but a box of things and a key in her back pocket that would soon detonate. It was early March. Air still had that grey Boston wetness, like winter refusing to die. She got in her Prius, drove home in silence, and set the box on her kitchen table. The ceramic cactus tipped sideways. She didn't bother to fix it. Over the next few days, her phone didn't ring. Not from IT, not from Dev, not even from Lisa in procurement, who used to call whenever she couldn't find the latest writer template. She did get was a LinkedIn update from Nathan. Thrilled to be leading Genix's next evolution. Streamlined, strategic, scalable. Attached was a photo of him at some executive summit, flanked by two guys in vests, with teeth too white to be trustworthy. The caption, "Legacy is dead. Velocity is king." She closed the app and opened her Helix archive. The sale was moving fast. Apex Ventures had issued a letter of intent. A friend had mentioned it in a side text before ghosting. Emily watched the news drip out in vague press language. Significant data restructuring, portfolio repositioning, asset class optimization, all the euphemisms that meant the same thing. Nathan was burning the house for insurance money. The number floated up like a greasy balloon. $80 million, 80 for portfolio that still had pending trials, open access, triggers, a security protocol so specific it had a contingency section for submarine jurisdictions. Nathan didn't know or didn't care. Emily kept a legal pad on her kitchen table and jotted every milestone in pencil. March 10th, Loy signed. March 14th, press release draft leaks. March 18th, internal town hall scheduled. The March 10 entry had an asterisk. Protocol 4.7b remains unacknowledged. Nathan, meanwhile, was glowing. Around town was that he was being floated for a board seat at a new biotech startup. Genix stock had ticked up a few percentage points on news of the Helix sale. He strutted across podcasts and panels. Like a man who thought gravity had been repealed in his honor, Emily bought a new pack of highlighters. Yellow for buyer-side errors, pink for Genix oversights, blue for compliance gaps. She went to Trader Joe's. She watered her lawn. She kept a bottle of Proco in the fridge and didn't open it because she knew something they didn't. Protocol 4.7b wasn't just a bureaucratic tripwire. It was a hand grenade with a smiley face drawn on the pin. It gave her Emily Chen, formerly Invisible Data Ops Analyst, final say over any transfer of Project Helix's core data, her key, or no deal. No one had asked her to waive it. No one had contacted her at all. Nathan had been so eager to erase her name from the org chart that he hadn't noticed where else it was printed. So Emily waited, not out of spite, not even for revenge. She was just giving them time. Time to realize how deep in the weeds they really were. Time to feel the rope tighten. And when the moment came, the meeting, the question, the collapse, she'd already be there, calm, patient, with her key uncapped and her answer ready. She waited 5 days before sending the message. Just one-to-one person, Alex Kim, Genix's senior IT counsel and the only man in data who ever remembered to bring her coffee the way she liked it. Black, 2 sugars, no questions. He was meticulous, quiet, allergic to drama. If anyone still read the damn protocols at Genix, it was Alex. Her message was short. Hey, Protocol 4.7b on Helix. Please confirm it's been addressed before the sale. E. The reply came 3 hours later. They already signed the LOI. No how are you, no emoji, no buffer, just the sentence. Cold. Final. Emily stared at it for a long time, then closed her laptop. She didn't follow up because she understood what that line really meant. The train had left the station, and no one on board had checked if the tracks were made of paper. Apex Ventures had begun due diligence, and Nathan was peacocking around like a man who'd cracked capitalism itself. There was an all-hands town hall streamed live on a Thursday. Emily watched from her couch, bowl of stale popcorn in her lap. Nathan stood in front of a branded step, and repeat sleeves rolled, microphone clipped, like he was hosting a tech event on how to kill your own company and look good doing it. We've identified key redundancies, he said, smiling. Legacy data was a drag on velocity. Dead weight, so we cut it. Dead weight. Emily didn't flinch. She just picked up her remote and rewound the clip, watching his mouth shape the words again. Dead weight. He didn't just mean the team. He meant her. The woman who built the Helix framework from scraps of conflicting patents, EU compliance laws, and enough red tape to mummify a developer. She clicked her pen and jotted in her legal pad. March 20th. Nathan calls data dead weight. Keys still unacknowledged. The buyers were moving quickly. Articles started circulating in investor newsletters. Apex Ventures set to acquire 80 milliliter data block from Genix Labs. Strategic realignment signals, operational agility. All nonsense. None of them had seen what Emily had tucked into the protocol's footnotes, like landmines, but someone else had. It started with a LinkedIn ping, a name she didn't recognize. Junior associate at a boutique firm in Chicago. Hi, Emily. I'm working on a data diligence matter involving Project Helix. Your name came up as the assigned key holder on several core assets. Would you be available for brief call? Off the record, of course. Emily raised an eyebrow. She responded cautiously, happy to chat. Next Tuesday, 2:30 p.m. off the clock. They met over video. The associate looked young, competent, already exhausted. Behind him, a shelf of thick binders and a dying ficus. We noticed something in the foundational agreements, he said after introductions. There's a recurring key holder notation. Your name appears on several protocols, but it's unusual. It's not tied to your department. It's personal. Were you aware? She didn't smile, just leaned into the camera. I wrote them. The associate blinked. You. I was the key holder appointed by Genix and their foreign partner. Protocol 4.7b. Without my authentication, Helix's core data rights cannot be transferred or divested in any capacity. A pause. Then the associate sat back slowly. His poker face failed. Our client was not informed of this. I'm aware. Silence stretched. Emily led it. He started scribbling in his notes, already picturing how this was going to play out in Monday's partner meeting. If this protocol is enforced, there's no if, she said. He nodded. Be in touch. Emily ended the call, closed her laptop, sat in the quiet. That had been the test the moment the signal flared. The buyers had finally hit the tripwire, and Nathan, he was still out there doing interviews and pretending he'd already cashed the check. She poured herself a whiskey. Neat. No toast, because the next call wouldn't be polite. It would be surgical, and she'd already sharpened the knife. The meeting wasn't on the books. No invite, no calendar trace. To quietly forwarded address and a time. 10 a.m., Monday. Typed in courier font, like something out of a Cold War novel. Emily showed up 10 minutes early. It wasn't a boardroom or an office tower downtown. It was a coffee shop, tucked between a dry cleaner and a nail salon. The kind of place with chipped mugs and a chalkboard menu that hadn't changed in years. No logos, no witnesses. Just Emily in a navy coat, and clean slacks are pulled back like she was going to church and war at the same time. The buyer's lawyer arrived exactly on the hour. Mid-40s, crisp suit, wedding ring, no tie. He introduced himself as Jordan, but the firm name he mumbled under his breath was enough. He wasn't some junior associate chasing billables. This was senior counsel for Apex Ventures. and he wasn't here for coffee. Emily let him lead, let him settle, let him think he was in charge. Pulled out a folder. No laptops. Old school. I reviewed the Helix protocols personally last night, Jordan said without preamble. There's something irregular. Emily folded her hands around her mug. Only one thing. He didn't smile. There's a protocol 4.7b, he said slowly. That refers to a key holder whose authentication is required for any material asset transfer or third-party data control adjustment. Protocol appears in the main agreement, the EU Joint Development Rider, and the secondary sublicense terms. Emily said nothing, just nodded once. Keep going, counselor. The name listed as keyholder, he continued, is yours? She raised her eyebrows like she was being told the weather. That's correct. It's not the company. It's not IT. It's you personally. Yes. How? Why was that structure approved? It was necessary, she replied evenly. The EU data dispute happened in 2018. We needed a neutral domestic key holder for both parties to avoid dual jurisdiction litigation. I was appointed by both teams. The protocol was reviewed, red-drafted, and ratified by Genix's CTO and our partner's external firm. Twice. Jordan's jaw flexed, and no one revoked that designation. Emily shook her head. It's irrevocable unless superseded by a new joint designation signed by both parties, which, given Genix's decision to purge half their staff without reading the documents, never happened. Jordan opened his folder. Inside were prints of the protocols, heavily annotated, highlighted, underlined, circled in different colors. His eyes scanned them again, like he was hoping the words had changed overnight. They already signed the LOI, he muttered. Yes, Emily said, sipping her coffee without full compliance verification. If we proceed without your authentication, the transfer is invalid, and any subsequent data derived from that invalid transfer will be exposed to clawback litigation, including punitive breach. He looked up. Finally, the posturing faded. Now he was just a man doing math. Risk, cost, public embarrassment, the kind of fallout that ruins careers and brands in the same breath. We were told, he said carefully, that Helix was clean. I'm sure you were, Emily replied, but Nathan Brooks wouldn't know a chain of custody protocol if it bit him on his overpriced loafers. Jordan leaned back, his eyes narrowed. Will you authenticate? No. Is there a number? I'm not negotiating. This isn't about money. He studied her, probably trying to find the motive. Power, spite, legacy. But Emily wasn't offering any of that. She gave him the truth. Cold and dry. I'm not blocking the deal out of revenge. I'm blocking it because it's invalid. That's my job. Or at least it was, until your golden boy tried to sell the engine without checking who had the key. He exhaled through his nose, the kind of sound men make when they realize they've stepped into quicksand in custom shoes. I assume you understand. This could get complicated. I assume you understand it already has. He nodded once, stood, and gathered his folder without a handshake. Well, be in touch. She waited until he walked out before reaching for the little sugar packet in front of her, tore it open, poured it into the half-full mug like nothing had happened. Because while Nathan was out doing victory laps, the real race had already started, and he'd left his shoelaces untied. Emily didn't need a spotlight. She had the paperwork, the conference room. Smelled like expensive leather chairs, bad decisions, and catered arrogance. Nathan had requested the fancy one. Glass walls, downtown skyline view, branded notepads at every seat, a small army of Genix execs, Apex reps, and legal observers filled the space like it was a coronation. Nathan was in his element, hair perfectly told, blazer casually draped over the back of his chair, like even suits were too slow for him. He was grinning like a man who thought every camera in the world was watching. With this acquisition, he was saying, pacing behind the head of the table, We're not just offloading legacy weight, we're accelerating Janix's core strategy. This is about streamlining, removing friction, turning page one of a new era. Emily could hear the words before she even stepped inside. She entered quietly. No announcement, no folder, no laptop, just a plain grey blazer and the calm, bored face of a woman who'd already seen how this movie ended. Nathan's eyes caught her as she slid into the back row beside Jordan. Buyer's lead counsel. She didn't smile. Neither did he. Nathan hesitated, blinked, then went back to his monologue, like a man refusing to believe in ghosts. Of course the portfolio's clean, he continued, tossing the word like a dart, fully unencumbered. Everything's been scrubbed, vetted, green-lit. You won't find a single operational landmine in the structure. Emily sipped her coffee, lukewarm, fitting. The head of Apex's legal team, woman named Riley, razor-sharp in a dark maroon suit, flipped a page in her binder, adjusted her glasses, and spoke for the first time. There's one final issue we'd like clarification on before we proceed. Nathan turned to her, palms open, sales mode engaged. Shoot. She tapped a paragraph with her pen. The Helix Data Agreements Protocol, 4.7b, references an individual key holder for asset transfer approvals. Like to confirm the name listed here is no longer applicable. Nathan didn't even look, just waved a hand like he was batting away a fly. Oh, that he said with a chuckle. Yeah, that's old language. Boilerplate junk from a prior regime. Legal fiction. She's just a footnote. The room didn't laugh. Riley raised an eyebrow. Nathan's grin stiffened. He looked across the room toward Emily. His voice dropped half an octave. Emily Chen, former data ops. We let her go 2 months ago. Her involvement was minimal. Riley didn't blink. Is that true, Miss Chen? The air snapped tight. Everyone turned. Emily didn't stand. Didn't adjust her chair. She just raised her hand. I'm the key holder. No one spoke. A second passed. Then another. Nathan's jaw twitched. He gave a little laugh. Too loud. Too sharp. Okay, let's look. I'm sure she thinks she's the key holder. But that protocol. Riley interrupted him, voice like a scalpel. The protocol is active and binding. We confirmed it with both Janix and your EU joint partner. The designation was never revoked. Nathan paled. Emily turned to face him fully now. Calm, poised. You didn't even read the writer, did you? He opened his mouth, closed it. Riley slid a paper across the table, highlighted in yellow. Emily's name printed under the authentication line. We'll need her written approval before we can finalize, Riley said simply. Emily held up both hands, palms empty. No key. The silence was deafening. One of the Apex reps scribbled something onto a sticky note. Another reached for a water bottle with shaking hands. Nathan just stood there frozen, like someone had unplugged him mid-sentence. Emily leaned back, crossed one leg over the other. She didn't need to say anything else. The keys had spoken. Paige made a soft shh as it slid across the glossy table, landing right in front of Nathan, like a legal death certificate with Emily's name on it. Protocol 4.7b, underlined in bold, annotated by 2 firms and initialed by 3 parties, none of them Nathan. The buyer's counsel, Jordan, sat back in his chair, arms crossed, face unreadable. The power had shifted subtly but absolutely. This wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a reading of last rites. Nathan picked up the page with slow twitching fingers, scanned it once, then again, his brow furrowed like he was trying to translate Sanskrit into money. No, he said quietly. No, this can't be right. This protocol, this has to be superseded. It wasn't, Jordan replied. Nathan's eyes flitted to Emily, was still seated calmly at the back of the room, like she just wandered in from a knitting circle and accidentally stumbled into a boardroom hostage situation. He stood abruptly, voice rising. You're bluffing. Emily didn't even blink. Riley, the buyer's lead, closed her binder with a quiet thump. She's not. There's no way this stands. She doesn't work here anymore. She's not even on payroll. How can she have authority? It's not tied to employment, Jordan said. Cool. It's tied to custodial designation. Personal assigned irrevocable without joint party agreement, which your team never sought or apparently read. Nathan looked like a man, realizing he'd stepped off a curb into traffic, and the horn was already blaring. He turned to Emily. Okay, fine. You made your point. You've been heard. Now, be reasonable. We're all here to make this work. Emily finally stood slowly. No rush. She walked to the head of the table and picked up the contract Nathan had just tried to sell without her. Her voice was clear, even a scalpel, not a hammer. I am the key holder on Project Helix. She looked him dead in the eye, and I do not approve this sale. The words dropped like a steel door slamming shut. No authentication, no deal. The Genix delegation collectively stiffened. HR shifted in his chair. Legal looked like they wanted to teleport. Nathan opened his mouth. Nothing came out, not a word, just the high-pitched whine of someone whose parachute hadn't deployed. Riley nodded once. That concludes the meeting. She stood gathering her documents with surgical grace. Apex's COO said nothing, just followed her out, like a man leaving the scene of a controlled demolition. One of the analysts paused to shoot Emily a subtle, incredulous nod, before disappearing behind the door. And Nathan, he stayed frozen, hands flat on the table, like he could hold the sale together, through sheer denial. Emily leaned in just slightly, voice low. You called me a footnote. She tapped the keys. I'm the damn authentication line. Then she turned and walked out. No fanfare, no strut, just a quiet, measured exit, like someone leaving a chessboard with the king still upright, knowing they never even had to say checkmate. Behind her, the silence roared. By noon, the buyers were gone. No calls, no counter, no face-saving delay tactics. Just a silent exodus of Apex execs in black sedans. Folders clutched tight, mouths tighter. Genix's $80 million miracle sale evaporated like it had never existed. The glass conference room sat empty now. Chairs still askew from the scramble. Condensation rings on the table like bullet holes. Nathan stood inside it alone for a while, staring down at the paper Emily had tapped only hours before, as if he could will it to say something else, something reversible, something that wouldn't make him look like a fraud in a $900 sport coat. It didn't. Upstairs, the board was already in emergency session. Someone had whispered dereliction of duty before the door closed. Another mentioned fiduciary negligence. No one said Nathan's name out loud. They didn't have to. Everyone knew who set the bonfire, and smiled while lighting the match. Emily didn't bother watching the fallout in real time. She wasn't a sadist. She just knew math, and the numbers weren't in Nathan's favor. Back at her house, she pulled up Genix's internal news portal out of morbid curiosity. One new update announcement. Genix Labs begins leadership transition as part of our evolving strategic vision. We thank Nathan Brooks for his contributions and wish him well in his future endeavors. Was the corporate version of being shoved out a side door with your box of shame and a $20 door gift card. No apology, no correction, just vanishing. A ghost in Gucci shoes. Emily leaned back in her chair and watched the blue loading bar spin on her old Genix VPN access. Still dead, still gone. They never reactivated it, never asked for knowledge transfer, never even thought to check if the detonator they tossed into the dumpster was still live. That had been the plan all along. She didn't want her job back. She never wanted a plaque or a name on a door. What she wanted was security. Real security. Not the false promise of loyalty from a company that would cut her loose without a second thought. So, she gave herself an insurance policy. Protocol 4.7b. Nathan had been chugging green juice and building reorg slides with buzzwords and bar graphs. Emily had been drafting safeguards in the sub-protocols, planting digital anchors. writing her name not where it could be erased, but where it had to be read. Every single time that protocol wasn't spite, it was survival. The final domino fell the next morning, when Genix's general counsel resigned to explore new opportunities. Translation: jumped ship before being blamed for not flagging the one protocol that sunk a deal worth more than a quarter of Genix's projected annual revenue. IT would become a bloodbath. The research team directionless. Nathan unreachable. No posts, no tweets. His LinkedIn headline changed from VP of Strategic Operations to open to work in under 24 hours. Emily got a call from Alex Kim. Short, dry, respectful. Just wanted to say, read it, all of it. You wrote it perfectly. She thanked him. Didn't ask what else he'd seen. By then, she'd already been contacted by Apex again. Quietly, discreetly. This time with an offer. But that was next. Right now, she let herself sit in the stillness of victory. No champagne, no confetti, just the hum of her refrigerator and the legal pad she'd stopped writing in. Its last line underlined twice. Protocol 4.7 be executed. Didn't just protect the asset, it protected her. A week to the day after the collapse, her phone rang. A known number, Chicago area code. Emily let it buzz twice before answering cool and steady. Emily Chen. She knew the voice. Jordan, Apex Counsel. This time, no formality, no layered legal posturing. Just the tight, polite tone of a man calling not as a lawyer, but as a recruiter. We've reviewed everything, he said. No small talk. You were right about the protocol, about the compliance history, about all of it. Emily waited. She'd learned long ago that the most powerful leverage in any room wasn't noise. It was silence. Jordan cleared his throat. We'd like to bring you on as an external data consultant. Scope would include Helix, plus some adjacent portfolios. We're negotiating out of Boston and Berlin. Fully remote, flexible structure, paid monthly retainer, plus success fees. Her eyebrow lifted. Still hadn't spoken. Compensation would be well generous. 3 times your Genix base, plus options, plus full authority over Helix's key, continuity if you accept. He paused in plain English. You'd stay the key holder. Now she smiled a little, just at the corner of her mouth. My only question, she said softly, was whether I'd keep control of the keys. You will. She didn't ask who had to get fired, demoted, or chewed out to make that possible. Didn't ask how many internal debriefs or shareholder calls had begun with the phrase, "We didn't realize," and ended in profanity. She didn't even ask who at Genix was still employed, because it didn't matter. She had the leverage, and that was all she'd ever needed. Send the paperwork, she said. I'll review it by tonight. No need, Jordan said. It's already in your inbox. Executable PDF. We'll arrange courier signature for hard copy if needed. Emily hung up without a goodbye. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a second coffee, and opened her laptop. There it was, exactly as promised. Retainer agreement, consultant onboarding, Protocol 4.7b reaffirmed by both parties. Her name in bold, she signed. No parade, no fireworks, just a click, a keystroke, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing the thing they tried to sell, without her now, belonged to her permanently. It wasn't revenge, was insurance. Later that afternoon, she opened her old Genix inbox, still technically deactivated, but she'd kept a local archive. Thousands of messages, mostly unread, mostly dull, but one thread caught her eye. Her final exchange with Nathan. The last time he dared to respond, she clicked compose to Nathan Brooks at Genix Labs. Subject re-legacy keys body. Still, just a footnote. No signature, no closer, just those 5 words. She hit send. It wouldn't reach him. The account was long dead. But that wasn't the point. The point was that somewhere buried in Genix's disaster archives, her name wasn't just in the protocol. It was the protocol. And Nathan, he bet the company on a bluff. He didn't understand. She didn't need to yell, didn't need to gloat. She just needed to authenticate once, and that was enough to own the whole board. The Locksmith's Key. Part 5, The Echoes of the Helix Debacle, didn't fade quickly. In the weeks that followed, Genix Labs became a case study in biotech MBA programs. How not to divest data assets. Anonymous leaks to TechCrunch painted Nathan as the villain, a velocity-obsessed VP who ignored the code that bit back. Emily read the articles over breakfast, her new consultant role, already yielding emails from Apex about upcoming projects. She didn't comment on the stories. Her victory was private, coded in silence. Apex proved to be a better fit. Their team respected expertise, and Emily's first task was auditing a Berlin-based portfolio similar to Helix. She worked remotely. Her Cambridge apartment transformed into a command center of monitors and encrypted drives. The retainer hit her account like clockwork, and the options vested faster than expected. For the first time, she felt seen, not as a footnote, but as the architect. Nathan's downfall was complete. His attempts at Spin, a self-published Medium post titled Lessons from a Bold Pivot, fell flat, garnering more laughs than likes. He surfaced at a small startup in Austin, but rumors of his data blind spot followed. Emily heard through the grapevine that he was consulting on agile strategies, a demotion in disguise. As for Genix, they recovered slowly, but with scars. New leadership brought in consultants, irony noted, to re-engineer processes. Emily's Protocol 4.7b became legend, a warning etched in their updated handbooks. Always verify the key holders. Emily closed her notebook for good, the last entry a simple note, unlocked. And in the world of biotech, where data is king, the locksmith reigned quiet. Big thanks you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.